I want to begin by echoing the sentiments of my colleagues that violence is never the answer and that we all must hold our own accountable. And we're here today to discuss how violent actions and rhetoric fuels the problems that we're having in this country. And I want to respond to a couple things because what is striking me is this incredible hypocrisy of this conversation, which is no one in this committee, no one in this Congress condones violence against our law enforcement. No one. At all. And any insinuation that we are encouraging violence against law enforcement is just outrageous and should not be tolerated. But I think what we're also seeing here is a silence of people who are refusing to criticize ICE agents in particular, who are going outside of their authority and abusing their power in a violent way against American citizens. And there is silence on the condemnation of that. I haven't heard anyone in this panel, except for maybe Officer Hodges, criticize that. I think part of the problem is, I am a big fan of Dallas Police Department. I have worked closely with them. I'm so supportive of them. And I agree with the comments that we need to double down to keep our law enforcement safe. It is outrageous to me, this indignation that we're having by Republicans who have voted to consistently defund efforts that keep officers safe, as many of my colleagues have pointed out. And the addressing gun violence, for example. More officers are killed in gun violence and mass shootings that have nothing to do with a predisposition against ICE. But yet we're not talking about that. But that is a direct threat to the safety of law enforcement. And what we see here, though, is we have bad cops and we have bad ICE agents. And right now, the American public has a laser focus on some of these ICE agents who are exercising their authority and their power in a very abusive and uncontrolled way. I was going to offer a video today of a gentleman who is an American citizen who's 79 years old, whose business was targeted in a raid, and he was trying to show the valid papers of his employees. Instead, he was tackled and ramshackled to the ground in a very violent way, fracturing his ribs, giving him a brain injury, as an American citizen who did not one thing wrong. And I think what we're really missing here in this conversation is that ICE agents are frequently acting with a lack of probable cause. To the point of, I think, one of the conversations that you said, Mr. Hodges, is that when you erode the rule of law, you erode the confidence in law enforcement. And we've had a complete erosion of the enforcement of probable cause for law enforcement to engage in an arrest and to engage in an activity and an experience with a member of the public. And that is a problem. And we have to address that too. And what you're seeing is a public outcry and an outrage. And maybe Gestapo's not the right word, maybe Nazi's not the right word, but you have to acknowledge that there is a pulse of the American people right now that are scared and they're terrified because we have members of our law enforcement community who are there to protect, serve and protect, who are instead harassing and intimidating, and they're not being reined in by their own agency. And that has to be part of this discussion. And because until then, it's all of it. The violence is unacceptable. We should never tolerate doxing. We should never tolerate assault on any of our men and women who bravely serve. But at the same time, we can't also allow the rogueness of some of these members who have let this power go too far and abuse it. And that has to be part of this conversation.